Okay, so hello and all right, and everyone, welcome to AltHR Shift. I'm Marty Robbins here with my co-host Mindy Honkoop, and this show is all about unique perspectives that completely shift the way we lead, build teams, and rethink work, because let's face it, we need to. Each episode, we talk with leaders and builders about the moments that changed how they saw leadership and people, or HR in general, and today we are joined by Enpei Lam. Enpei is a people analytics expert and founder of TalentAINow, where he helps communities turn messy workforce data into clear, actionable insight. He's got just a ton of background, and just go to his LinkedIn profile and check it out. But he's focused essentially today on making data simple, accessible, and actually usable for HR teams. And gotta love that here in AltHR. So all of that being said, Mindy, I'm going to kick it over to you. How are you doing, and what do you think about data and human resources?
I don't know why. I think a lot about data and human resources. And, I often have seen an evolution of the people function with data. And I have seen just with the amount of data we now have. It was starting out a while back. We were like, we need more data. We were like data hungry, and now it's almost like we have so much data that it's like paralysis of without a data analyst. What do I do? Which of this data matters? What is the story it's telling? And how do I overlay all the different data sets that I'm getting from the disconnected systems within my place of work? And so, and also what I often find challenging as I kind of come alongside and advise HR leaders with data, they're also getting push data from different key stakeholders. Like, this is a data that you should care about. This is the data you should care about. And they're all different data points. Like, the board will have its set that it wants to care about. The executive team may have a different set. And then, from others, they may have something that's different. But then for the people function, how do we start informing where are the missing data points? Because often out of all those data points is the context of the story of the lived human employee experience at work. And so that's why I just kind of shut down for a moment thinking, because when you have such lack of clarity in the data, you kind of do just shut down. You get kind of frozen. But I mean, Enpei, you're the expert. What resonates with you?
Yeah. So when we talk about data, as HR community, it could sound scary, right? I mean, we're HR, we're human resources, we're people. We don't really look at the numbers and the data because we want to have the human touch. But with HR and data, they don't necessarily have to be separate that way, right? And it just can't. Like you mentioned, now we have so much data. We almost get bloated by data, getting into paralysis by the overwhelming volume of the data. But you can still hear HR leaders saying that, well, there's just so many data that we don't know how to deal with it. What I hear is actually the same excuse, like, years ago where we did not have data. People complained that we did not have data, so we can't do anything with it. Now we are bloated with data. We're just too many. I don't know how to deal with it. Right? So that became more like an excuse, not to face the fact. I think we all seen the movie Matrix, right?
Yes.
Morpheus was presenting Neo with the red pill or the blue pill, right? I remember the red pill was a true fact that you get into the matrix. You really know the fact. Although you might get through some pain, right? It might be very discomfortable. You might get trained, you might get squeezed, and all the mental suffering and all that. Or you can take the blue pill and to be complacent and be comfortable and live your life as before. I mean, there's still a choice for us, right? Do you want to swallow the pill, the truth, or you want to just keep on living the life like before? But with all this latest technology, it's harder and harder for us to keep that excuse, for of not looking at the data, because data could be very easily transformed into insights that we can
Yes.
use in order to, make better decision, to uh, to make us more effective, right? So um, it's just like AI data, right? They are partners. They are not our enemies, right? They're not our uh, estranged spouse that, oh, I don't want to deal with it. I mean, we have to embrace it in order to really to partner and use it as a tool, to figure out our business need. Anything from increasing our performance, productivity, decreasing absenteeism, turnover,
Mm,
right? To our increase in engagement. So all these could
yeah.
be done through looking at the data, and now with the latest technology, it's less of an excuse to not
Mhm.
really use it, because I mean it's becoming very easy to transform it and into
Yes.
actionable insight, and the burden actually falls on the analysts like us to really translate it into a very simple, user-friendly interface and understandable communication, right? To for the stakeholders or leaders to understand what are the data really talking about.
Yeah, and what I love is, like, because technology has advanced, we do have the ability finally, 'cause I mean, I've always loved data, loved, like, this because it gives a signal. It gets me
Right.
curious about something. I'm like, "Oh, something changed. Why?" And, what's interconnected, what's interdependent with this
Right.
data? Often, HR leaders may not feel like they have direct impact in something, but there's a lot of indirect impact, and so then I just love how, like, data is like it's like sleuthing, and how we can get really interested in, like, okay, if we move this over here, I believe this may impact that
Right.
over there, but I need to understand kind of that flow of impact.
Right.
What are those underlying things? And but I do think it's important that we get comfortable in the uncertainty, because there is so much signal, and if we are taking the complacent pill, I feel like we I don't know. I
You're
think
not
we're in
gonna
the
grow.
shift. You're not gonna, yeah. I mean, we the care of people, the care to care, like you said, you started out, we have to care about the data to be able to care for the people, to be able to show the why,
Right.
to invest, to care.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all about signal, right? If there's a dip
Mm,
in engagement, if there's a dip in productivity, and before leaders, before data transformation or easy data analytics, leaders might just throw money at the problem and say, hey, just give everybody 5% raise. It will solve the problem.
mm,
People will show up at work. People will become more productive. That might solve the problem for the short term, right? And a
Uh-huh.
couple 3
mhm.
months later, and when everybody, get comfortable again with their new salary, problems returns, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, the data can give you the signal on into the root causes, why people
Ooh.
stop showing up at work, right?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
people stop, being productive as before, right? Is it because
Mhm.
they don't get to work from home? Is it because they're not getting promoted after 5 years, right? So all these could be a signal coming from from the data, and
Yeah.
like we said, it could be very hard to get to that signal before. The
Mhm.
scriptures are always easier, right? Oh, we see a dip in productivity, we see a rise in turnover. Those are easy. The root cause analysis used to be hard. Now it could be actually very easy with with the latest technology. I try to avoid using AI because that's becoming boring. With all those like latest technology that we have, it's very easy to get into the bottom of it, and
Right.
and get to the correlation like you actually just mentioned too. Like if we adjust this by this much, how would that impact the outcome by how much? Right. So yeah, so things have become a lot easier, which you know make it less excusable for
Right.
leaders to not look at data or insights.
Right. Like, even to a point where I may be, I mean, I love data, but I'm not like an analyst.
Right.
Like, but
Right.
I have a level of understanding, but being able to use technology that helps me be able to get there or helps inform me
Right.
about the types of questions I could be asking or being able to understand because I do love that, right? You have
Right.
surface level data like you said, but I love how you talk about root cause. I often, that's about the current state, which so much of us are moving so quickly that if
Right.
if we're solving level data problems, we're not actually solving the right problem that the
Exactly.
root
No.
cause data is showing us. And I think that's so much of what we're missing right now. We're not slowing down enough to have dialogue and conversation or thinking through like understanding that root cause. I mean, I love hearing you talk about root cause, but also your hypothesis indicators. Like
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
human centered design, I love a good hypothesis. I like thinking about HR as a product, which some people think, oh my goodness, that's such a cold way to look at HR. And I was like, no, I think looking
Yeah.
at HR as a product is actually thoughtful because now I'm caring about who I'm designing for and they're a part and they have a voice in how that's designed. And
Yeah.
so, but it's all about scientific mindset and hypothesis indicators. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit more about those root cause data points that we might be missing and how that ties to then hypothesis indicators.
Yeah, I mean, the more data, the better, right? And the more data that we can bring into the algorithm or the model, the more inclusive and the more comprehensive that we can actually let the algorithm to figure out what are the root causes to certain challenges, right? And HR has enough data. If you dig into your HRIS, you have a plethora of attributes that you can actually hypothesize to certain like challenges. And now we have different systems with different data set. We have the CRM for sales. We have a lot of operation system with a lot of operation metrics, like how many
Hmm.
projects that a person is handling, what is the delivery rate, and what are the productivity, what is the team size. All this stuff can actually be brought in together. Well, you might go back to the question again. It might be hard to connect all the data sets. That is true. And even with what the technology that we are given today, it still could be hard to come up with a consistent process to always have like all this data from different systems to bring in together and have like a data lake or what have you to run the analysis. But we can start small, right? I mean, if it is a challenge to bring in different systems data together, let's just start with HR data, right? Or even like
Right.
just the compensation data, right? And that could give us good enough insight to at least know where the problem is. And then, if technology allows, resources allow, and if you become a good friend with Claude or GBT enough, then you can figure out a way. It's actually not too hard to prompt it to bring different data set together, and run some diagnostic to figure out the root causes to certain challenges before overcoming it. Right. So and this again, not falling on the burden of our HR community. This is the analyst work to really to look at the data and then bring it together. But the good thing is, what it used to be impossible or take like months to do could now be just done in like a few days or a few minutes, to get to the insight that they want. So things are still updated, so things are almost at real time. The leaders don't have to wait for months before another problem
Hmm.
already came up, and to look at. Now we have the capability to look at root causes, diagnostic, overcoming scenario planning, overcoming the challenges very quickly.
Yeah. And what I hear about that too, because the whole idea of hypothesis, and I think one of the blockers that HR pros have had in the past and people pros have had making those hypotheses in public. Right. But now because of technology advancements and things like talent AI, we can start to have those hypothesis and scenario building a little more in private, right? And
Yeah.
to build out. There was
Right.
another thing that I really loved in our, like, when I first got to meet you, that we talked about, in that we talk about, yes, the HR data and analytics comp and all of that, but we also talk about how we can elevate our HR professionals to solve business problems with that are really people problems. So if you
Right.
think of, customers, service levels, and things like that, where that data doesn't necessarily come from our HRIS system, but comes from other areas of the business. But you gave and I don't know if you can even remember this, but you gave a really good example of kind of like taking a general business problem. I think it was a sales problem, and make like helping translate that hypothesis to an HR problem.
Right. Yeah. So we have a few use cases using data beyond HR to kind of look at, how do we solve turnover problem? How do we increase sales performance? Right. So if you're looking at sales, of course, you have to bring in some sales data, to kind of have the big picture, the complete picture of looking at, hey, we want to increase sales generation by 2% or 3%.
Mhm.
What's needed to do, right? So you bring in like the team size, sales network, the sales support, things like training time, right? And all these measurement could be brought into the algorithm, and then let the algorithm run and figure out, hey, what is the leading causes to improve sales generation, and by how much you need to improve all those root causes in order to get to the 2% increase that you want, right? So those are all possible, and it could be done very quickly. And here we're just looking at two data sets, right? Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but it is not too hard
No, and I even
to
think in how you just artfully said it, I'm almost like, oh, I feel like we need to like just go back even and like walk us through that. Like walk us through like a scenario, because I think what you just said is so powerful that, I mean, if this is someone's first time thinking through this, they're like, whoa, Ampe, like I need a rewind. I need a
Yeah, so
rewind.
so
Help me. Help me
I'm
go
not here
back.
to I'm not here to sell my platform. We have a platform to do data cleaning and merging, but the platform out there publicly available, like it is so advanced now. And huge disclaimer: I'm not affiliated with Anthropic. I'm not affiliated with ChatGPT or OpenAI, but the latest platform that Claude is offering, which is like I think the Sonnet 4.6 or Opus 4.2 or 6, I forgot. So those pro version is only $20 a month. So save your fancy frappuccino for 3 times a month. You get to get this plug-in onto your Excel file where you can do all those cleaning and merging real time. And just by prompt, you don't have to understand VLOOKUP. You don't have to understand whatever. All those like crazy Excel coding, which doesn't even make sense to me, right? I mean,
With you.
I had to learn it
No.
because I was working on Excel before AI came around. But today, those plug on. So you imagine you have the Excel sheet on your left with all those numbers and columns and fields, and then you have the Claude prompt on the right, and then you can start typing like, hey, I want to merge, this tab to that tab, right? And have a better data sheet to work on, and then you can start doing all kinds of like summary statistics. What is the average of the salary by business unit? What is the sales performance by a certain sales team, by geography? It will do all those and kind of pivot table type of summary metrics, and as well as visualization for you. So yeah, super straightforward, and you don't need to know any coding. You just need to basically type your command, and it will turn out the information for you.
And I think that's I mean, golly, I remember, I'm dating myself, but like, taking employee surveys, and as an HR people pro, that like, okay, well, from this survey, like me, who's not a numbers gal, is trying to look through data and say, okay, these are the themes and the observations that I'm making, as well as the recommendations to the executive leadership team. And it's all based on observation. But a lot of times, really taking that data, now I can actually gut check. I still use my expertise and my background, but I can gut check some of this data to be like, what am I missing? What themes had I not realized just in my, eye to eye observation, or my really poorly built pivot table, or anything along those lines. I think that's been very liberating in the
Right,
HR space.
right. Yeah, yeah. And like I mentioned, the AI is more like a partner than an enemy, right? You can ask the bot about, hey, am I overlooking certain important insights that I should be focusing on, right? They will come up with recommendation and suggestions. I'm not saying that you have to listen to it like 100%, but it might give you ideas and and points where you might have overlooked. And then
Right.
and kind of just going through the list, and oh yeah, I should also look at I don't know, the data a certain way by different cut, right? Maybe looking at also the engagement point, in a certain way, right? By different department, or by different shift, to see, hey, where's the challenge are really coming.
Scenario planning. And I think in your
Mindy, you went on mute.
was so weird. It keeps like automatically going on mute. It keeps wanting to mute me.
I'm
I'm
not
not
doing it, I
touching
swear.
anything. I'll just go back in what I was saying. You commented on scenario planning, and in your sales hypothetical example, you were talking within that about scenario planning. But I just wanted to draw that out because I think you started with a business problem of like the sales need to get to, what was it again?
Two, say
2%
just
renewals.
example, like say 2% or 3%, right?
Yep.
Huh.
And so that's the business objective. And what I think we often have had problems with is trying to understand, well, how can I as an HR leader impact that? Like
Right.
how I feel now, like how you just explained it, that's the bridge. But it was working backwards from that by being
Right.
able, and how you just so artfully told us in being able to practically use the different tabs of data from these different systems to be able to overlay and work with
Yep.
Claude to help
Yep.
think about training,
Right.
incentivization.
Right.
Even I think there was some when we were talking in prep for this about how many hours are they in the office versus
Right.
working from home, or
Yeah.
their commute time. Their
Yeah.
commute
Yeah.
time was a
Exactly.
part of that. And
Exactly.
really being able to understand things that we might have missed before, like
Right.
just and even like the time frame of the training, how long, or the duration like
Right.
of the training. It's just like it blows your mind
Yeah.
on like
Yeah.
what is possible now that wasn't before, and that scenario planning, as Marnie was saying, we can do that in safe ways in
Right.
which we like might I don't know, should I tell someone about this? I can play with the data and be able to forecast, okay, like if I did take and kind of fine tune this root cause indicator, how would that build out in a future forecasted
Exactly.
scenario? Does it get
Exactly.
to, and then it helps me, like if I'm a team of one and I can't do all the fine
No.
tuning of all the root causes, I
Mm-mm.
can figure out this is the one that's going to give me the biggest lift.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just didn't want, you were talking to it, but I wanted to highlight that just a
Yeah. I
little
mean,
bit more
and
to tease that out.
all these processes, right? We were talking about scenario planning. It used to be reserved by those like large enterprises who have like a team of 20 data scientists to do it.
Yes, yes.
But now, with all these again, latest technology and stuff that we all the equipment and tool that we have, everybody can do it. Everybody, can open up a laptop, can type, prompts, will be able to understand, how to do scenario planning, right? How to ask the algorithm to run a root cause analysis, right? So once we know the root cause, then we can start talking about scenario planning, right? We first have to understanding what is causing the problem, right? And then we fix those root causes to overcome the problem, right? For the sales example, it could be like the sales team, it could be the accounts per sales salesperson is looking, is, what is the optimal accounts that the salesperson should be managing. It could be the training time. It could be the number of sales support that the team has or the person have, right? So all these could be root causes for the sales not getting the hitting the target, or if you want them to increase by 2-3%, how much of an adjustment that you'll be needing on these root causes in order to help them achieve the goal, right? And all these, the algorithm, the calculation could be done in the back end, right? And then the front end could be, very user friendly, very easy for anybody to just kind of use it and understand that, for this, if we want the sales to increase by 2%, these are the dialer that we need to adjust, and then we'll get there. Right. And if finance come down and say, no, there's no budget for more bonus, there's no budget for more incentive, fine. I mean, there's other things that we can do, right, as HR person to help our people to improve their performance.
I love that because like with all these root causes, they all have some level of impact.
Right.
It's just like they're each create an area of possibility.
Yeah. Yep.
And go ahead, Marnie.
Go ahead. No, you're fine. I think mine's less of a question. It's more of a, as you're talking, like I have a soft spot in my heart for the HR or people ops teams of one, right? Who are sitting
Yes.
at a leadership team table and put into a very small box to solve very big problems. And how cool would it be if they go from one team meeting where they're like, we need to increase sales by 2%, but no one's paying attention to that HR folk in the corner because they're like, we're not talking about people problems. But then they go away and they run some root cause analysis and some scenario building, and they show up the following week with, I did some thinking about that root cause, statement that you have, and I think I have some ideas with data.
Right.
Holy smokes, they should be getting a promotion. Like, talk about the biggest mic drop they could have in that leadership team meeting. So I guess it's less of it, but I'm just like, I feel like that's the mindset a lot of these people pros need to be getting into, that maybe find themselves in an uncomfortable room.
Exactly.
Wow.
And all these ROI calculations is enabled as well, right? So it's there's no more just reserved to our financial or finance partners who's tasked to run this ROI, and they come back and tell you that, no, we don't have the money for that because this investment doesn't make sense. We now can look at our data and say, hey, actually increasing our cost by 0.2%, giving a little bit more incentive to our sales team can lead to a 2% increase in sales generation. That's a 1.8% ROI. Come on, as simple as that. So it really helps us to kind of get onto the same page with the executive team when we talk about strategy.
Yeah. And what I love about this is we are in doing this and focusing on data and focusing on revenue. We're caring about the person and the impacts to the people.
Exactly.
And by leaning into that, we're able to hold both in balance. There's tension, and how can we best, meet in the middle? And what I love about this too is that it makes it so much more accessible. When you are that team of one, there's so much coming at you, and you feel like there's so much being asked of us to do, and so we only have so much time in a day, and we can't do all the things. And so how do we know that we're focusing in on the right things? Often it is just these surface level data points that we're looking at that we think we're solving for. But I hope those that are listening to this are able to understand, like, if we're feeling heat in something, it's a surface level thing. If we're seeing heat even in data that's changing on the surface, how do we just take a moment to take a step back and start to get curious and ask why and look into some of these data points, these root causes underneath, and have conversations in context with the root cause data to help provide what are the opportunity statements here. And what is that, scenario planning? What is the potential possibilities of the different opportunity statements,
Right.
then we can figure out and get buy-in because we have data. These are data-informed decisions to be able to get the buy-in to think about and design a
Right.
solution, an MVP, and
Yeah.
be able to have a clear hypothesis. If we do this, then we anticipate that so that when we do launch it, we can see if it's confirmed or denied or, and what do we need to iterate, which is
Yeah.
at the heart of the signal framework.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah,
human-centered
and if you ask
design.
me, the key again is to have a simple platform enough for user to quickly transform all these data into the insight that we have, so we don't have to live in the old days like, oh, this is using the same excuse that, oh, there's too many data, I don't know how to deal with it, right?
Right.
And then we just stop and freeze, and then we move on to solving the problem the old way, the
Yeah.
comfortable way, however
I
however
I
we want to call it, right? And once we have like a easy enough and simple interface to use this data and transform that into insight, then we can and also quickly to bring in all these results, to discussion and to meetings. Then all of a sudden we were enabled to
Yeah.
kind of not really negotiate, but to have a good discussion, right, with our
Right.
peers, with
Right.
partners. A different scenario, we can offer different scenario. Hey, if you think this is too hard to implement, if this is too many actions to implement, how about looking at the second root cause? How about looking at the
Yeah.
third root cause, right? To
Right.
make adjustment on those are easier, right? Maybe are not as effective, but at least it's easier to get to the result, and let's do that.
Of that.
I
And I think of even like the fractional professionals or even consultants. So like
Yeah.
this type of analysis and getting to several root causes and whatnot could actually save companies a lot of money in consulting fees because you have, the
Oh
people
yeah.
who can get to the root causes and the opportunity statements in so much faster time
Mhm.
than like and even in our fractional work, Mindy, you and I, it's like a lot of times we don't know what's behind the curtain. But a really good
Right.
first start is like like let's pop the data into
Yeah.
the interface that help me at least focus on what's going to be really impactful to my clients.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And the good thing is now it's available to companies of all sizes, to small to mid-sized companies, to consultants, right? With all these technology and tools, that used to be reserved by, for the big brothers, for the big enterprises, right? For those that who had resource to dig into this analytics exercise, right? Now is available for everyone.
So on pay when people come to you, when companies come to you, what are some of the things that they're usually asking for? Like what is the heat that they're feeling where they're like, I feel like this would be a good conversation. Yes.
Every company is unique. Every company has its own problem. Yeah. So during
Fair enough.
the Great Resignation time, turnover was pretty common, right? So a lot of
Mhm.
people, was dealing with turnover. How do I overcome that? So we help a lot of companies dealing with turnover back then. Not so much now, right? So
Yeah.
now is more about like, what's the optimal remote time? What is the optimal,
Mhm.
we want to bring people back to work. What is going to be the impact, right? Are people going to be happy? Is it going to hurt our turnover? Is it
Right.
going to hurt our productivity? If it is, what would be the optimal, work, remote work balance, right?
Right. What about no meeting Friday? What does that
Exactly.
do
Yeah.
to yeah.
Yeah, and then what would be, how do we reduce absenteeism, right? How people stop showing up at work, how do we
Mhm.
deal with that? Um, and you'd be surprised, pay equity has come back quite a bit. Even, last year was pretty bad, given the political administration,
Hmm.
all the stuff. Companies kind of turn away from it. Now the compensation team wants to refocus on pay equity again, as the states are
Mhm.
actually enacting more legislations around it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And pay equity could be hard because I mean you have to compare people doing similar work and then only be, set aside the gender, set aside the ethnicity, and then compare the pay between men and women as long as they're doing similar work at similar grade, similar performance rating, similar tenure, and all the good stuff. And but it doesn't have to be hard, right? Like I said,
Yeah.
this platform now where with a few clicks of a button to set up the model to run the multiple regression model with all the insights could be packaged into a PowerPoint almost like instantly, right?
Uh,
So,
and Enpei, you're
yes,
being so humble, and I love that we do love to highlight great platforms, and that you're speaking to your Talent AI Now pay equity platform.
it is. It is.
Yeah,
So, and it does a little bit more than pay equity. Also, it also examines
yeah.
compensation analytics as well. So, compensation and pay equity. There's also one of the top challenges that we have seen across the companies. Like I said, because the states are new legislations, the EU with companies that have people in the EU, they're starting to have a pay transparency directive. So they're also concerned about that.
Mhm.
And it needs analytics help to address those as well. So, yeah, everything from compensation to kind of all those workforce operations. Different company has different challenge and different priority that they want to solve first. So, yeah.
So good.
Mm.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right with the pay equity. I mean, outside of there's an immediate reaction to any policy changes or demotivation in those areas. But then the natural human instinct is to come back and be a human workplace. That demand starts to bubble back up slowly and surely, and for good reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on pay, as far as I mean, the reason we asked you on the shift is not only because we're big Talent AI fans, but we're big on pay fans because you're just so sharp.
Hmm.
And you have such great insights as far as the meshing of data and human centered design, so to speak. So where can people find, follow you, connect with you and your company?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. If you type in my name, I think I'm the only Enpei Lam on LinkedIn. So it shouldn't be hard to find me on LinkedIn. Um, do we have like a QR code that we can share? So I have a Calendly
Yep.
QR code that
Yeah.
you can scan and book a time to just have a chat with me. And we also
Yes.
have a website where you can go to www.talentainow.com. We also have a company page on LinkedIn. So there's multiple ways that you can reach out to me.
Yeah, and for those listening, you definitely want to reach out. This is the sales scenario that Enpei walked us through. He showed Marnie and I this huge data sets, and within minutes, like got down to the scenario planning and a PowerPoint. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. We're like
Thank you.
kids
Thank you.
in a candy store.
Yeah,
We're like, "Whoa."
we were like kids in a candy store. Man, I was so excited. It was like Disneyland, and I love Disney.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yes, so please be sure to look in the show notes below or on whatever platform you're in to check out On Pay. He's just a great human. And just thank you so much, Enpei, for just sharing your time with us and your brain. And if you want more great conversations like this, Marnie and I get to talk with amazing people like Enpei twice a month. And so be sure to subscribe and follow. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the double bell so you always know when a new episode airs.
Yeah. Thank you both. Have a great rest of
No,
your week.
Thank you guys.
thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.